Hello everybody, the format of today's video is going to be quite different. This JVC we have here now is very similar to a JVC TV that I reviewed many years ago. In fact, what I'll do is I'll refer to the other older one as the old one, and I'll place it on right of screen when we go split screen, because we're going to go split screen quite a lot to compare the two together. So this new one is the AV-32H5SA, and the other older one is the JVC AV-32H5SA. They're both 32 inches in size, both widescreen, of course, both JVC branded, both pure flats. This one is in rough condition. You can see, look at the corner. I took this out of a bin. I found it in a bin and rescued it. So it had been dropped in, and it does work. It does power and picture, and I'm praying that that continues to be the case. Look here on the front. That's where the power button's supposed to be. The power buttons come out. Now I must interject here. I had high hopes that this may not have been 100 Hertz, because the older one indicates on the front that it's 100 Hertz, and then unfortunately, just spotting this at the last moment, this too, it says 100 Hertz panoramic mode, so I don't think we have much chance of it being 50 or 60 Hertz only. If I can squeeze the camera around, we've got a set of jacks there. We've got some basic TV controls, as well as a S-video and composite and stereo audio. Sorry about not being able to get right into that. The remote in front of us is most likely from the old television. Look how yellow it is. There's the more original grey. Here now is the yellowing. This thing's been packed away in a box for 10 years or so, and it's still gone yellow, unfortunately. It does have a model number on it, RM-C54. Slides down to reveal how fresh it is on the inside, and has DVD and VCR controls within. Going around the back, we have the battery cover that reveals itself to hold two AAA batteries. Moving on to the back, this is what it's all about. The big triple SCART on the back. Well, you can really start to see the differences between the two. Look at the old, two SCARTs above, one SCART below, and the RF on the right, whereas the new one has the two SCARTs on the bottom and the RF on the left. So that lends itself to say that the chassis are definitely different to one another. This is an Aussie model with an Aussie power plug. There's our model number. Made in Thailand, and from memory, the older one is made in the United Kingdom. You can see the back shells are different. The old one has that flat platform section on top, whereas the new one is curved all the way somewhat. Looking closely, we can see that SCART 2 and 3, external 2 and 3, are both labelled with S-video. Going by the manual, you can see here that SCART 2 can be either RGB or S-video. SCART 3 is S-video, and we also have the S-video on the side. So 3 options to provide S-video signal to the television, quite a lot. And thankfully RGB as well. It's all starting to make sense now. The back shell is off and we have access to the label on the tube. What do we have? We have a JVC tube, 76 centimeters, made in Korea. Compared to the old television, it has a tube by LG Philips, made in Germany. It makes sense because this television is made in Thailand, thus the tubes come from Korea, whereas the old television is made in the United Kingdom and the tubes come from Germany. So that does change the game quite a bit. It would be nice if I had both sets here to do a direct comparison to really see the difference. It's very clean inside, despite coming out of the bin. Probably would have been quite mint if it wasn't for being thrown in, tossed aside
like a piece of trash. The chassis is quite neat, quite clean and quite spacious inside. Fly back down there. Now there's a label that has the model number of the television with an extra A and T on the end. The only other identifier that I could sort of see for the chassis is the main, it's text on the board near the couple of capacitors. It says main PB assembly LCA10561 dash, and then there's a white block. So that's the only chassis identifier I found. I'm not totally sure that is actually correct. Actually, there's another. Let me see if I can zoom in. There's another little white label that might have the details anyway. We won't get too stressed about that now. That big heatsink there's probably the sound amplifier. And this caged PCB here that has some chips in it, that'll be the brains of the operation. That's where the 100 Hz processing will probably take place, and on-screen menus and things. How about we actually pull that out and just turn the TV on and see what happens, eh? I don't think it'll work. Look on the board there, Micon/100 Hz. If we could disable that, would be fantastic. As for the SCART module, it is a module. It's actually plugged into the board. You can see this PCB here and its white connector at the bottom. Similar to the other chassis on the other television, although the position of the RF, I'm not sure if they're quite the same or not, but this could be swapped around for some other configuration for a different country. And there's our big neck board and our yoke on the back, looking rather flash put all together. By the way, this is the year 2005, this television, so it's quite late in the world of CRTs, and there wouldn't be many more to come. What we need to do now is actually wait till night time, then test the television in the dark. I've turned the TV on now for the second time. The first time was just to establish if it worked, and now the second is to give it a thorough go through. You can see some black marks, some black swirls to almost the very left and very right, and I believe that's probably shadow mask damage, given that the TV's come out of a bin and been chucked around pretty badly. This has a fairly good menu system that seems quite similar to the old TV. I think it is different, but it's pretty similar. We can go into picture and we can choose standard, soft, bright, standard. You can manually adjust all of them, color, temperature. What have we got there? Cool, warm, normal. Again, we'll go with normal. I like defaults. And then adjusting from defaults. Oh, what's this one? I think I saw that. Features. Digital VNR. Well, if we can turn it off, oh yeah, good. Might have a look to see what that does later. If it turned off 100 Hz, that'd be awesome, but I don't think so. Color system, auto, NTSC 4.43 and 3.58. CCAM, PAL, good. Very good. Of course, you'd expect that for a television of 2005. Blue black, that should turn the background perhaps to off. Yes, so we can have either a black background or a blue, and I think I'll leave it on blue. Go into setup. We don't really care about tuning in channels. Now it's got picture tilt. Again, we'll have a look at that when we get an actual picture on the screen. Then we'll go into this one here. This is quite interesting in here. It's nice menu system really when you have some illustrations. You have some basic drawings of the inputs of the television. So we can name SCART 1. See, you've got the red, the green and the yellow squares there. That corresponds to the remote. I know it's dark now, but the remote has those 4 buttons, and we can name the channel. I'd probably name it RGB, but I'll name it Game. Then SCART 3. SCART 3 is composite video, but can also be activated for S-video. So you can see again down here, See, it says S in with a yellow button. If I press the yellow button, that'll now designate external 3, SCART 3, as an S-video input source. That's pretty cool. Again, what can I do here? Probably can choose, I can switch off. I can switch off S-video. That'll probably give priority to composite, but I'll leave S-video on. And I can also name it, and I will name it. I'll name it SVHS because it's a dedicated connection for S-video. And then finally, if I can get over to SCART 2, here we go. So SCART 2, as said earlier in the video, will accept RGB, and it's in RGB accepting mode now. And if I press the yellow button, I can change it so it's another S-video in. So I've got 3 S-video ins currently running. I don't need that many, not at all. I'll turn S-video off. And to name it, I'm going to name it game as well, because that's what I'm into and that's what we'll have it at. Can't custom tailor the names, unfortunately. And a nice menu system, I like it. Now, to get into the service menu, you've got to hold the top left button, and I think it's the information button on the remote. You can see that in the picture. If I do that, oh, straight in. That is the best. That is probably the easiest service menu, just like the old TV to get into. I mean, that's crazy good. Now, there's even a deeper level that you can get into by pressing those 2 same buttons as well. The top left, I think it's mute, and the info button, and then it gets in deeper again. Destination Europe, just like the old one, same deal. Picture tilt, yes. Destination Europe. I'm sure there's more to it than this though. Go to 4. There we go. Vertical shift, vertical size, horizontal centering, horizontal size, trapezoid, east-west pin cushion, some sort of correction up, low, or color, angle, bow, vertical linearity, vertical shift. Oh, we're back. There's 14 adjustments in all. Not bad, not too cryptic, easy to get into. And to get out, you just press I and you're out. That is so good. If only other TV makers would do the same. Of course, you will need the remote to do that, but it's so easy to do. Beauty. Let's put the test pattern generator on in S-video. Here we go with S-video in NTSC J, and it's looking very vibrant, very nice and vibrant. We've got a bit of a dog leg going down there on the bottom left corner. There's our white screen. The purity's pretty good, bar those grill damage darkened areas. Grayscale. And there's our grid pattern. It's converged fairly well too. Comes out a little bit down at the bottom right corner there. It's still pretty good. Just needs some adjustment for the bottom left and the bottom right corner. It's bowed outwards a little bit. Even at the top, it might need some east-west pin cushion adjustment to straighten that up a bit. Gets a little wonky when it gets out of near the outer inches. Not centered as well. That's probably, let's go to that. It's probably a shortcut button for getting to, let me try. Oh, look at this, we've got a built-in menu. The red button gets us to the regular. There we go. And while we're at it, let's go back to color bars and let's get PAL. NTSC M even works. There's our PAL. It locks on, nice and bright. Wow, PAL M. PAL 60 locked on. And then CCAM, which it is compatible with. That's a pretty good result.
Let's say I turn over to channel 7. It'll be snowy. Let's pretend I'm watching regular television. Then I turn the Saturn on. It's in SCART 2 at the moment. So it'll flick over automatically without me having to change channel. So is the TV wide. It has that automatic switching feature that many televisions do, not all. Let's get it out of widescreen, that's terrible. Let's go to regular. I can already tell, due to the lack of scan lines and a little bit of a flickery interlace looking, that we do have the 100 Hz effect in effect. We have Street Fighter 02 running in RGB on the Sega Saturn. It's all NTSC. The critical thing I found out is that it's best to reduce the sharpness, and I've got it down at about 10-15%, because when it's up high, it creates a ghosting effect. Even at middle, even at the default level, it's too much. And I'll put it right up to maximum. And you can see on Ken, on his left leg, how there is a halo effect, a white effect, and this is essentially what happens to everything, giving it the over-sharp look. So make sure if you're running this set or any television, make sure the sharpness is not up too high, because I was nearly going to condemn the TV to hell. If you go too low, it gets perhaps a little bit too blurry. So just give it a bit of sharpness. And that'll do just for now. This television will go to black and white. Not all RGB TVs and monitors can have color adjusted. Some do and some don't. That's way oversaturated. And we'll go back to somewhere just around there. Hue might be actually tint for NTSC, and I've got the others where I want to set them. While we're at it, we'll have a look at the tilt function. So it has some range to rotate in both directions. Funnily enough, when it gets to its extremes, it actually goes a bit dimmer. If you look at Ken, if you watch the red Ken, look at him. He'll go a little darker if the camera can actually pick that up. Default will get the two arrows pointing. If you go off default, you get one. So we're back to default, and that seems about right. So there's no scan lines, and you've still got that little interlace wobble from the 100 Hz effect. This TV's not the best for 240p, but who's kidding? Let's move on to some 480i content. Decathlete's up. Looking back at the old video, I seem to have detected some artifact out here in the purple that I described. I don't see anything untoward right now with this image. This image doesn't look too bad. This is a 480i game. It's probably that 240p is not a standard that TV makers had in mind when they made this 100 Hz effect, but 480i and 576i is a different story. I actually need to turn the sharpness up a little bit for this game, because this is a very sharp game. It's high resolution. Once I get there. Oh, not, yeah, no, it's still getting that ghosting image. I can see it in the text, in the numbers. Still, this is not as sharp. It just does not look as sharp as a classic SCART RGB 15 kilohertz, 50-60 hertz vertical refresh rate television. Last game, Henry Explorers, again on the Saturn, gun game. No chance in hell, I think, of working. Not the gun anyhow. That's what I'm getting at. No. Come on, just fluke a shot somewhere. Come on. There we go. It's already a no, folks. You know, I know.
No. I'm shooting about as well as a Stormtrooper at the moment. Oh, we got one, yay. Yeah, no go. No go. Enjoy the game running by itself. To end this video off, I'll say what I like about the television. I like the fact that it has 3 SCARTs, great, 2 of which are RGB. I don't mind the menu system, it's nice, it's pleasant. Getting into the service menu is a dream, and it's not too cryptic in there, so that too is a nice big plus. Colours don't look too bad. They're not super oversaturated as some television sets, so it's okay. I know the geometry was out a bit, but I'll give it some leniency. We might be able to adjust that with some adjustments. But at the end of the day, it's 100 Hertz. No light guns are going to work. 240p is going to suck. 480i, yeah, you might get away with it. But at the end of the day, for me, I still prefer vintage CRT with scan lines, non-100 Hertz, just 50 and 60 Hertz. This unit's not really a keeper in the condition that it is in, given that the screen, the aperture, or not the aperture group, but the shadow mask's damaged most likely, the casing scuffed. Perhaps I could salvage the chassis, but that's about it, and the yoke. Otherwise, do not go out of your way for this JVC. Nice to compare it to the old one. Pretty similar. We couldn't do a direct comparison, unfortunately, because I don't have the old television still. But don't go headhunting this for anything specifically. I'm really thankful that it worked and we managed to get a full video out of it and it didn't die midway through. So it's so good that it worked, given that it had been in a bin. And I'm sure some of the viewers out there have experienced some pickups off the street or out of bins or from out of a shed. It's been in there for 20 years and it's worked. CRTs are tough things. They can survive a lot. On the other hand, it doesn't take much for them to die either. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more to come. I'm sure there's plenty more to come. More in the pipeline and more to come.